As far as reading goes, I feel like, especially when you're in a place like Moscow, Idaho, we need to make sure that we're continuing our education and doing everything that we can. As you can see by my library over there, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books, and it's the best way to better yourself. It's a great way to build your vocabulary. It's a great way to do everything that you need to do to have your job. And really, and especially in a situation of, in the field of athletics, there's 122 Division I schools out there that have football. There's only 350 some odd schools that have Division I schools that have basketball. There's not that many jobs out there, so there's not that many, continuing education opportunities. So I think that, learning and reading and finding out more about your profession is the best way to do it. And sometimes the one thing that I always told staff members about reading, I do a lot of it, especially when traveling, is that sometimes what you read isn't necessarily important of what it stimulates your thought process to, because there's been times where I've read books and I didn't necessarily learn anything from the book that I was reading, but it got me to think about some aspect of my job that gave me this can't miss idea that made me better from it. So whether you're exactly learning from the book itself or that book stimulates a thought that helps build that better mousetrap, I mean, you can't go wrong. But I couldn't stress enough to continue in education and do it through your own reading.
Okay. And that was when we asked Pete about intellectual curiosity. Just for those of you who are watching this, I'm here with Pete Isaacson. He's the Associate AD of Generation Revenue.
Revenue Generation.
Revenue Generation. Okay, so on a similar note, Jeffrey Pfeffer, the author of Leadership BS, he touches on bringing energy and engagement as a leader every single day. He said that that's critical for those under you or those around you. What do you think of doing that, and how do you do that on a daily basis? Engage those around you and bring that energy every single day.
I think that absolutely. One of the first things when I got here, I made everybody read a book called The Energy Bus.
Okay.
And it's a John Gordon book. If you haven't read it, you should. I know you have. It's very big in basketball circles. And basically it's about bringing positive energy to work. And I would go one step further is it needs to be positive energy. But I think the biggest thing is, as a leader, no one follows a sloth. No one follows somebody that's not engaging. You have to have some form of charisma. You've got to have a vision. You've got to have a goal. And if I've learned anything through my time here is, even if it's maybe not the best goal or the best way to get there, if you've got everybody rowing that boat in the same direction, you'll find a way to have success. But it's definitely one of those things where passion breeds passion. And it's a scenario where if you can't have fun with what you're doing, how can you expect everybody else to have fun? We work too many dang hours not to have a good time here. So I think it's a very important part of the thing, just because of the fact that nobody follows a monotone.
Okay, I noticed that you said I rode the boat, the BJ Fleck reference, so I like that. Sometimes even when a leader is fully engaged, and I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've seen it happen in the past, there's still maybe some unaligned interests, is what Pfeffer calls them in his book. Or maybe your subordinates have a different goal, maybe what's better for them instead of the whole group. Have you ever experienced that in your career? And if you have, how do you deal with that? How do you try to get everybody to kind of row that boat in the same direction?
Absolutely. And every place is the same, every place is different. But for the most part, some people are natural of, oh my gosh, we have a vision, we've got excitement. Yeah, let's go. And a lot of people are a scenario where, I don't know. I mean, it seems like he's going to make me do a lot of work. And some people aren't just quite in that comfort level. And part of it is, it's just like in coaching, is sometimes you walk into a situation and you walk into a player's coach kind of scenario, and then there's a coaching change, and all of a sudden the player's coach isn't the player's coach anymore. Where the guys are like, I didn't sign on for this. I was expecting popsicles after practice, and we're not getting popsicles anymore. So, it's the same way with the staff, and I think that the big thing is to treat everybody as individuals, and to basically realize that not everybody on your team is going to be an A. No different than in coaching is you're not everybody is going to be all conference. How do you gel as a team is what's important, and knowing that every aspect of it is important. And really, it's time. People need some time to adjust. And I think that that is the toughest part about it for me, is I'm the most impatient person in the world. I fidget, I can't wait to get going. I get excited about the job. I mean, we're doing this thing, 2 hours before work starts.
Totally.
And we're both here, we're both excited, because, I mean, there's no place I'd rather be right now. But not everybody feels that same way. And I think that the one thing is the naysayers is that you need to just work harder with them, and that you need to remain as ultra positive and don't let them swim down and affect you. The hardest part about it is sometimes that those people will want to try to pull the believers down, and that aspect is unacceptable. Is you need to make sure that you're keeping everything in line. But it's a scenario where you just need to work at it, and you need to prove yourself. It's good to have some early victories. It's good to have some opportunities where people can see that something you're doing is working, and maybe they're not so much of a naysayer anymore. But the biggest thing is just to get after them. I think that worst case scenario, maybe you do make a change at some point, but that's a good 9 months to a year down, where you really find that out. And really by that time, it's a two-way street. This style is not for everyone. And they might see the writing on the wall and go, I don't want to work for this guy. I don't want to do this. And they go a different direction. And that's not bad. I mean, there's different ways to get things done. This is my way. My way is energetic. My way is ultra positive. And it's the only way I know how to do things. And fortunately, I've had some success with it, so I'm going to keep riding it as long as I can.
Okay, and then you mentioned success, and that kind of leads me to my next question. One of the statements that Pfeffer makes in his book, and I'm going to read it. He says, as a leader, anything you say can become a truth. A leader defines everyone's reality. I really like that because, like you, I like to think of myself as a positive leader. And kind of, I'm kind of a dreamer in a sense where I believe anything is possible. What does that quote mean to you, and how do you think that maybe that quote can pertain to guiding your team's success and with your positive attitude?
The biggest thing is if you don't believe it, it ain't going to happen. And I used an example, and I think I've got it right here, is this cell phone right here has more technology in it than we had for NASA to put a man on the moon.
Yeah.
So somehow we found a way to do it, and I bet you every day at NASA in the 60s, no one was sitting there around going, can't do it, don't know why we're trying, don't know why we're trying, because if they would have had that attitude, nothing would have been accomplished. I also believe in stretch goals. Every goal we should have should be very, very difficult to reach, because of the fact that everybody in a work setting likes to have goals that they can attain, because they like to say, look, I was a good employee, look, I did this, or whatever. But it doesn't stretch ourselves, and nothing great happens if we don't stretch ourselves. So I'd rather put in a scenario like a goal for external. Next year, I want to sell out every basketball game.